My mother's relentless pressure for me to donate a kidney to the sister who had an affair with my boyfriend led to a DNA test that unearthed the explosive secret she had concealed for decades. For nearly half a year, my sister, Sarah, has been battling severe kidney failure. Initially, her condition was manageable. She was undergoing regular treatments and holding on, waiting patiently on the transplant list for a compatible kidney. Recently, however, her health has taken a drastic turn for the worse. Her condition has deteriorated rapidly, and her doctors now insist that she needs a kidney transplant immediately to survive. This new urgency has prompted my mother to ask me, to implore me, to get tested to see if I am a match for Sarah, with the clear expectation that I would then donate one of my kidneys to her. To be perfectly honest, I am a whirlwind of conflicting emotions about this entire situation. My feelings are tangled and complicated. Sarah and I do not share a close bond. In fact, we haven't had any real relationship for many years. Growing up, she consistently made my life a living nightmare. It often felt as though her primary mission was to orchestrate my unhappiness. Throughout my school years, I was a frequent target for bullies. I was small for my age, decidedly nerdy, and struggled with my weight, a combination that made me an easy mark. They relentlessly teased me about my physical appearance, hurled horrible names at me, and routinely stole my lunch money. On a few occasions, the bullying escalated to physical violence, leaving me bruised and shaken. It was after one such incident that a teacher finally intervened and alerted my parents to what was happening. My parents' solution was that Sarah could protect me. Sarah is only a year older than I am, and we attended the same schools. She was present for every single one of those agonizing years of torment. But instead of defending me or even offering a shred of support, she did absolutely nothing to alleviate my suffering. In fact, she actively made things significantly worse. She chose to side with my tormentors. Sarah would feed them personal details about me, private things like what I wore at home, or the fact that I had very few friends. She armed them with all the ammunition they needed to make me feel even more insignificant than I already did. Sometimes, she would even join their group during lunch, ganging up on me. They would all laugh at me, mock my interests, and poke at my insecurities until I broke down in tears. I felt utterly and completely alone. I could not comprehend why my own sister, the one person who was supposed to have my back, could be so profoundly cruel. When I tried to tell our parents that Sarah was part of the bullying, she would put on an act of perfect innocence. She vehemently denied everything, telling them I was lying, that I was either confused or just being overly dramatic. Despite my desperate pleas, my parents chose to believe her. They told me to stop trying to shift blame onto her and to focus on ignoring the other bullies. The frustration was immense. My own sister was one of my chief tormentors, and nobody believed me. No one saw the depth of my despair. When I finally graduated and left for college, I believed my life would finally turn a corner. My bullies were no longer a part of my daily existence. I was hopeful for a fresh start, and for a while it seemed like I had found one. College felt like a true renaissance. I even met someone special, Derek, my very first boyfriend. He was kind, respectful, and I was completely smitten with him. I brought him home to meet my family, and my parents seemed to like him as well. Sarah's reaction, however, was markedly different. Instead of being merely polite, Sarah appeared almost ecstatic to meet him. Throughout the entire dinner, she flirted with him in a way that was deeply uncomfortable. She made inappropriate jokes about his physique, commenting on his biceps and muscular chest as if it were a casual observation. Initially, I tried to brush it off, giving her the benefit of the doubt and assuming she was just being socially awkward. But as time went on, it became painfully clear that she was fully aware of her actions. She was blatantly interested in my boyfriend and was actively trying to capture his attention. To make matters worse, I later discovered that Sarah had found Derek on social media without my knowledge and had been sending him private messages, expressing her desire to meet up with him alone. She did this entirely behind my back. The moment I found out, I confronted Derek about it. I expected him to block her immediately and cut off all communication. He assured me that he had already done so, and I, wanting to believe him, took him at his word. I trusted him. But in the following weeks, I noticed a change in his behavior. He became increasingly distant and secretive with me. What I didn't know at the time was that Derek had never blocked Sarah. On the contrary, he had started meeting up with my sister in secret, and they weren't just talking. They were engaging in regular sexual encounters. I remained oblivious to this betrayal until one of my close friends from college saw them together. She witnessed Derek and Sarah in his car, behaving intimately like a couple, and she immediately came to tell me what she had seen. Hearing the truth was like a physical blow to my stomach. For months, I had sensed that something was wrong. It was a persistent gut feeling I couldn't shake, a sense that Derek was not being honest with me. Whenever I brought up my suspicions, however, he would gaslight me. He would call me crazy for being paranoid and accuse me of imagining things. He made me feel as if my own insecurities were poisoning our relationship. But when my friend confirmed everything, I realized my intuition had been correct all along. Derek had been cheating on me. The most devastating part was that of all the people in the world he could have betrayed me with, he chose my own sister. As you can imagine, when I confronted Sarah, all hell broke loose. We had a massive argument, and I told her she had crossed an unforgivable line by getting involved with Derek. How could she be so desperate as to pursue the one guy I was dating? Yet, Sarah showed absolutely no remorse, not a single shred. She doubled down, almost bragging about her conquest. She actually gloated about sleeping with Derek before I had, as if it were some kind of trophy for her to claim. There was no apology, no sign of regret. This is why I took the issue to our parents. I told them everything. How heartbroken I was, how deeply Sarah had wounded me, and how this was about so much more than just Derek. It was about the ultimate betrayal of sisterhood. My father was horrified and clearly disappointed by what he heard. But my mother's reaction was entirely different. She said she didn't believe me and insisted on speaking with Sarah to hear the whole story before deciding who to believe. Her response stunned me. What other story could there possibly be? The facts were undeniable. My sister had slept with my boyfriend. What more information did she need? I felt completely unsupported and invalidated, as if my pain and my feelings were completely irrelevant. Even after my mother spoke with Sarah, she still sided with my sister over me. She relayed to me that Sarah claimed to be in love with Derek, and that the only reason she did what she did was because she genuinely believed Derek was the right person for her. I was incredulous. I scoffed, telling my mother how absurd that excuse was. How could Sarah possibly justify her behavior with such a flimsy pretense? But my mother's next words shocked me even more. Instead of acknowledging my pain, she said, "Well, maybe this guy just wasn't meant for you. Maybe he and your sister would be happier together. I mean, He was too good-looking for you anyway. Next time, you should settle for someone who's more on your level. Then maybe he won't cheat on you." I was speechless. It wasn't just that she was defending Sarah. It felt like she was explicitly blaming me for being cheated on, as if I had brought this upon myself simply by dating someone she deemed attractive. Was she seriously implying that I didn't deserve to be with someone handsome, that I should have aimed lower to avoid being hurt? Until that moment, I had always known my mother favored Sarah. There had been countless small signs over the years. More praise, more attention, more understanding directed her way. But I had always told myself that my mother still loved me, just in her own different way. Deep down, I had clung to the hope that I wasn't completely invisible to her. But after that conversation, a switch flipped inside me. I realized how profoundly wrong I had been. My mother's words made it crystal clear that she loved my sister more than me. To his credit, my father did reprimand Sarah for her actions, but his efforts were half-hearted and ultimately did little to change the dynamic. Despite his initial shock, he eventually fell in line with my mother, supporting my sister. My parents seemed more invested in forgiving Sarah's betrayal than in defending me. Their reactions made me feel small, insignificant, and utterly alone. So after everything that had transpired, I made the decision to cut off all three of them: Sarah, my mother, and my father. I told my parents that Sarah could have my ex because, in my eyes, they were both garbage and deserved each other. I also made it clear to my parents that by siding with Sarah, they had shown me exactly how little they valued me. Their actions and words had destroyed any possibility of trust or love between us. I told them I was done with them, for good. My parents made a weak attempt to persuade me otherwise, but their arguments were hollow. They didn't truly fight to keep me in their lives, which only served to solidify my decision. Since that day, I have maintained a strict distance from my family. I rarely spoke to any of them, getting only sporadic updates from distant relatives with whom I still maintained contact. A few years ago, I learned that Sarah had married my ex. Yes, the very same man she had stolen from me. The news disgusted me, confirming that she was still entangled with the source of so much pain, unable to find someone better for herself. It also reaffirmed that I had made the right choice in severing ties. Now, I live my own life. I am married to a wonderful man, and together we have built a life that is safe, happy, and secure. I also have a fulfilling career that I am very proud of. We are content, and I no longer waste my thoughts on my family. So you can imagine my shock when earlier this week, I received a short email from my mother. She asked me to call her, citing a family emergency. I hesitated, but my curiosity and a sliver of old obligation made me call her back. When I did, I learned the nature of the emergency. It was about my sister's deteriorating health. I had already heard about Sarah's kidney failure through the family grapevine, so the news itself wasn't a shock. What did surprise me, however, was my mother's desperate plea. She asked if I would consider getting tested to see if I was a potential kidney match for Sarah. I told my mother that I would think about it and let her know. In truth, I have no desire to do it. But here is the major complication. My paternal grandparents have now become involved. They are aware of our fractured family dynamic, and despite my decision to cut ties with my parents, my grandparents have always remained a supportive and loving presence in my life. My grandparents argue that there is no harm in simply getting tested. They say that if I'm not a match, then the issue is resolved. But if I am a match, I can take all the time I need to decide whether or not to donate my kidney to my sister. Obviously, their intentions are good, but I am extremely uncomfortable with the entire situation. I am worried that if I am a match, my family will exert even more intense pressure on me to donate. I don't want to be guilt-tripped or manipulated into doing something I am so conflicted about. My grandparents mean the world to me, and I don't want to risk losing their love and support over this incredibly difficult decision. So, Reddit, am I the villain if I refuse to even get tested? Update 1. My mother contacted me again, this time practically begging me to get tested to see if I could save my sister. This wasn't the first time she'd broached the subject, but I knew I couldn't keep putting her off with vague answers. I decided it was time for complete honesty, so I told her, straight out, that I was not willing to do it. I explained that I wanted no involvement with my sister whatsoever and that my decision was final. I thought that being direct would force her to back down, or at least understand my position. But instead of acknowledging or respecting my feelings, she pushed even harder. She told me she expected me to step up and help my sister, regardless of my personal feelings. In her view, my wishes were irrelevant. My sister deserved a chance to live, and apparently it was my duty to provide it. Then she said something that cut me to the core. She told me, "Your life isn't worth much anyway." I was so stunned I couldn't believe I'd heard her correctly, so I asked her to clarify what she meant. Her explanation was even more devastating. She told me that Sarah's life was more valuable than mine because Sarah has a child, and I do not. She made it abundantly clear that she believed Sarah's role as a mother made her inherently more important than me. My mother seemed to genuinely believe that because I don't have children, my life holds less value, and therefore it was my obligation to do anything necessary to help Sarah survive for the sake of her child. In her twisted logic, my own worth was a non-factor. It was all about Sarah and her needs. As if dealing with my mother's cruelty wasn't enough, my father has now started contacting me as well. He called and demanded that I get tested, telling me to do it for his sake. He said that Sarah could die without a transplant and warned me that if I didn't at least find out if I was a match, I would carry that regret for the rest of my life. His words made it clear that he was placing the entire burden of Sarah's survival and my own future emotional well-being directly on my shoulders, as if I held the power to fix everything and would be making a catastrophic mistake if I refused. Update 2. Against my better judgment, I got tested. But before you all jump on me in the comments, I have something truly fascinating to share. Despite my deep reservations and the immense emotional pressure, I went through with the test, mostly just to get everyone off my back. A part of me also felt I was doing it for my grandparents. They have always been my rock, and I didn't want to disappoint them. But deep down, I also needed some kind of resolution, hoping the test results would settle the matter one way or another. The results came in, and they delivered two shocking truths. First, and most importantly, I was not a suitable match for my sister. That news, in itself, was an enormous relief. I wouldn't have to face the agonizing choice of donating a part of my body to someone who had caused me so much pain. It felt like a massive weight had been lifted from my shoulders. But the second revelation was something I could never have anticipated. My genetic markers did not match my father's. The results unequivocally showed that the man I had called Dad my entire life was not my biological father. When I first read those words, it felt as though the floor had dropped out from under me. I was already struggling with the emotional weight of my family's expectations, and now this completely unexpected bombshell had been dropped into my lap. It explained so much, all the times I felt like an outsider in my own family, the subtle differences in how I was treated. But it was also profoundly heartbreaking. The revelation sent shockwaves through the family, igniting a whole new level of drama that my mother had certainly not foreseen. My father was absolutely devastated. He had no idea I wasn't his biological child, and the betrayal cut him deeply. He is a man who has always placed family above all else, and learning that my mother had hidden such a monumental secret from him for his entire marriage was a shattering blow. I could see the raw pain in his eyes. Despite everything, he is the man who raised me, who gave me his name and his identity as his daughter, only to discover that I don't even share his blood. My mother, on the other hand, was caught completely off guard. She had been so focused on pressuring me to help Sarah that she had clearly never considered the possibility of this truth coming to light. Now, she's scrambling to come up with explanations and deal with the fallout. For me, the discovery feels like both a betrayal and a strange, painful kind of clarity. It explains so much about the way I've been treated over the years, but it also opens up a flood of new questions. Who is my biological father? Why did my mother keep this secret from me and my father for so long? Where do I even begin to go from here? Did my mother deceive him, too? Could my real father be out there somewhere, living his life, completely unaware that he has a daughter? Or did he know and choose to stay away? These questions have been racing through my mind nonstop, adding to the chaos of an already unbearable situation. My paternal grandparents have also been told about the test results, and they are distraught. They have always loved me as their granddaughter, and this news has hit them incredibly hard. They are demanding answers from my mother, just as my father is. But rather than confronting the issue head-on, my mother has gone into complete shutdown mode. She refuses to talk to anyone about it. When I called her directly, seeking some kind of explanation, she had the audacity to suggest that the test results were simply wrong. Can you believe her nerve? In the face of undeniable scientific proof, she was still trying to deny reality. I told her that the results couldn't be inaccurate, but she insisted on pretending this whole thing never happened. Her response left me dumbfounded. She claimed to be just as shocked as I was by the revelation, but her tone made it obvious she was trying to sweep it all under the rug. The arrogance of her comments hurt more than I can possibly articulate. How could she expect me to act as if this life-altering discovery was just some minor inconvenience? How did she think she could just hide the truth and escape the consequences of her deception? It's clear that she is more concerned with preserving her own image and avoiding accountability than with the immense pain she has inflicted on my father, my grandparents, and me. Her refusal to take responsibility, her insistence that this is all just a mistake we should ignore, only deepens my hurt and my fury towards her. This revelation has turned my entire world upside down. I have always felt like an outsider in my own family, and now I finally know why. But knowing the reason doesn't make the pain go away. I will provide another update as soon as I have more information. Update 3. The situation has only escalated. My dad has decided to divorce my mother. I never imagined my parents' marriage would end, but given everything that has come to light, I can't say I blame him. He is utterly heartbroken by the truth, betrayed in ways I can't even begin to fathom. His entire life with my mother, the family they built together, has been built on a foundation of lies. It's tragic to realize that this is the end of what he once believed was a source of trust and love. My mother, after days of relentless pressure from my father, my grandparents, and the extended family, finally broke down and told us the truth. I don't know if it was guilt, the weight of the constant questioning, or simply the inevitability of the truth catching up with her, but she finally confessed. It turns out she had an affair with her personal trainer shortly before she became pregnant with me. She had been seeing him behind my father's back. The affair was brief, lasting only a few weeks. My mother ended it, confident that no one would ever find out. When she discovered she was pregnant with me, she never once considered the possibility that I wasn't my father's child. She simply assumed I was. After I was born, she never questioned it, never got any tests done. There were no questions, just a convenient assumption that everything was fine. My mother believed I was her and my father's child, so she just moved on with her life. But the truth is, I wasn't. My entire life, every memory I have of my relationship with her, and with my father, now feels tainted by this lie. She never once entertained the notion that I wasn't my father's daughter. Instead of owning up to her mistake back then, she buried it for decades, hoping it would stay hidden forever. The way this has all unfolded is a bizarre twist of fate. My mother was the one who pushed me relentlessly to get tested for my sister. And now, her own actions have caused her entire world to come crashing down around her. She orchestrated her own downfall through her lies, her affair, and her secrets. None of this would have ever come to light if she hadn't been so insistent on me getting tested to help Sarah. But I suppose some higher power intended for me to learn the truth. I am now glad I was tested. Mom is now facing the consequences of her actions, and she deserves every bit of it. My father is heartbroken. My grandparents are furious with my mother. They all feel profoundly deceived and want nothing more to do with her. Even my maternal grandparents, with whom I've always had a more distant relationship, are ashamed of what my mother has done. They cannot believe she kept such a massive secret from all of us for so long. Since my mom's confession, everyone around me who had never really shown much interest in me before has suddenly developed a deep sympathy for me. Even distant cousins I haven't spoken to in years have been reaching out to check on me. It's strange, almost as if they're all trying to atone for years of indifference. But while their sympathy is a novel experience, it doesn't change the fact that my life has been completely upended. My mom has lost everything. My father has kicked her out of the house, and she is now living in a cheap motel. She has called me several times, asking for money and other forms of help, but I can't bring myself to offer her much. I despise her for what she hid from me. The more I think about everything she's done, the harder it is to feel any pity for her. My father is now consulting with a lawyer about the divorce proceedings. I can't imagine what this must be like for him. He's a man who has always valued family above all else, and here he is, picking up the pieces of a life shattered by my mother's deceit. There's a strong possibility my mother won't receive any alimony due to her infidelity. No family, no money, and no support. It is a form of poetic justice. Mom is reaping what she sowed, and while that might sound harsh, I don't have much sympathy for her at this point. As for my sister's situation, she obviously still needs a kidney. My parents are not viable donors due to their own health issues, and her time is running out. After everything that had happened, I felt a strange compulsion to visit her. With all the drama surrounding my mother's affair and the implosion of our family, I wasn't sure how much time Sarah had left. I felt I needed to see her, even if it was just to say a final goodbye. When I saw her, I was shocked by how frail and exhausted she looked. Her illness was clearly taking a heavy toll on her, both physically and emotionally. To my complete surprise, Sarah apologized for our past. I never expected to hear those words from her. She seemed genuinely shocked by the truth of our mother's affair. We both agreed that Mom's insistence on me taking the test was utterly insane. For a brief moment, it felt like all the bad blood between us had vanished, as if she had never bullied me, and we were just two sisters sharing a moment of mutual understanding. We talked for a few minutes, but I couldn't stay long. Sarah wanted me to meet her child and my ex, who were on their way to visit, but I knew I wasn't ready to face them, especially my ex. I still needed time to process everything. The emotions were just too raw. After that conversation, I feel a lot differently about Sarah. I no longer harbor the same level of hatred for her. Despite our history, despite everything that has happened, I genuinely hope that she and her family will get through this. I want her to find peace and get the help she so desperately needs. Update number 4. It has been 3 months since my last update, and a great deal has changed. First and foremost, my parents are now officially divorced. My father has been focusing on rebuilding his life, while my mother has been trying to piece hers together in her own way. It is clear that she has lost so much: her family, her credibility, and her sense of security. She still lives alone and has been effectively ostracized by the rest of the family. She tried to contact me a few more times, but I have since blocked her number. I no longer care what happens to her. I have realized that I need to move on with my own life, regardless of the wreckage of hers. The wonderful news regarding Sarah is that she has found a kidney match. Everyone, myself included, is incredibly relieved that she will finally receive the treatment she needs. She has been through so much, and I know this transplant will offer her a new lease on life. I am not sure if we will ever be close again, but I am happy for her, and I hope she has a smooth recovery. I have also come to terms with the fact that I will likely never know my biological father. My mother has refused to reveal his name, and I have decided to stop caring. Initially, the uncertainty tormented me. The not knowing, the wondering who he was if he ever knew about me, and how my life might have been different if he had been a part of it. But now, I understand that it doesn't matter. The answers are not forthcoming, and I've realized that it's okay to leave some questions unanswered. I cannot spend my life chasing a ghost from my mother's past. My husband has been my absolute rock through all of this. He has supported me in ways I never thought possible. Through every emotional breakdown and moment of doubt, he has stood by my side, giving me a strength I didn't know I possessed. Slowly but surely, I have come to understand that I don't need to find my biological father to feel whole. I have a wonderful life now, filled with love and joy. My marriage, my career, and the beautiful life we are building together are more than enough.